What's going on, guys? It's your boy Big Hero Chris back at you with another one. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, leave me a thumbs up, ring the notification bell, hit me up on Twitter, TikTok, the community post. You already know the vibes, and it's Wednesday, so you already know what that means. It's time for your AEW Dynamite review. And I gotta say, man, this week's episode was head and shoulders above last week's episode by a country mile. And honestly, it didn't take much for this week's episode to be better than last week's because the bar was set pretty much in hell. Last week's episode of Dynamite was probably one of the worst I've seen ever. And I've been watching AEW's pretty much since day one. And the fact that, like, universally that episode was just critically thought of as like really bad, I had a feeling that Tony Khan was gonna have to come out, drop the big guns, drop a good episode, because that's mostly what happens anytime an episode of Dynamite isn't received well. The following week's episode is way better, and this wasn't any different. This was a really good episode. A lot of the things that I'm normally annoyed by, I wasn't. For example, this week's episode of Dynamite started off with Jay White being interviewed by Renee Paquette. He's talking about how, he's linking up with FTR and Cope, and they're trying to take down the Death Riders. And as Jay White's talking, the Death Riders actually pull up, and it looks like they're gonna get the beat down on Jay White. But that's when Rated FTR gets the jump on the Death Riders, and they just have this big old brawl from the backstage all the way out to the ring. And it's good, it's a good little brawl. The people are punching for a little bit, they're throwing hands, feet, all those things. And then Cope says, listen, I put the challenge out this past Saturday on Collision, Cope versus Moxley at Revolution. What do you say, you chump, for the AEW Championship? And John Moxley says, you know what, man, you haven't done anything to deserve it. You deserve nothing. No. And that was pretty funny because, respectfully to Cope, he really hasn't done anything to deserve an AEW Championship match. So John Moxley was in the right in this situation. But then Jay White says, you know what, man, we're going to up the ante. We're going to have a tag team match. Cope and Jay White taking on John Moxley and Claudio in a street fight. And I would be cool with this. I am cool with this. But the thing about it is, this past Saturday on Collision, FTR and the Death Riders already had a street fight. So it's like, how many street fights do you need to have? Like, if you wanted to have the street fight at Grand Slam, cool. That means you didn't need to have the street fight on Collision. So, little nitpick there, but it hasn't been made official yet. But you already know that's what's gonna happen. Street fight tag team, Death Riders versus the Switch Edge, the Edge Blades, the Cope Blade. We're working on it. So speaking of Grand Slam, you saw a backstage segment with Buddy Matthews challenging Okada for the International Championship, and again Okada said no, and Buddy Matthews called him a bitch. So Okada took exception to this, and the match has been made official. So it will be for the International Championship, Buddy Matthews taking on Okada, and that should be a really good match. And I like the fact that not only Buddy Matthews, but Brody King, they've been getting a lot of shine. They've been getting a push as the tag team, the Hounds of Hell. And it's kind of funny how this is happening after Malachi Black has presumably left AEW. And I just find that kind of funny. Because I'm like, damn, they could have really got a good push as the House of Black, but for whatever reason, that didn't go down. So it is what it is. But speaking of the House of Hell, they had a tag team match against Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. And this was a hell of a match, man. I'm kind of like leaning back and forth between this one and the main event as far as what was the match of the night for me. But this was a really good match, man. And I'm kind of like, yo, so Buddy Matthews has this match against Okada. And then you have the Don Callis family. They got their tag team match against Kenny and Will Ospreay. So who's going to win, man? Somebody's got to take the loss. And it was the House of Hell, but it was Brody King that ended up taking the pin. Even during the match, you had Okada's music hit. And I thought they were going to do the whole distraction thing where, I don't know what to do because the wrestler's music hit, so I don't know how to function. And that really didn't happen. But the House of Hell did end up taking the loss. It is what it is, man. But the match was fire. It was a really fun match. And again, man, I like the way that, Buddy Matthews is getting more time to shine. People are really seeing what Buddy Matthews can do. And it's like, yo, this is what we were kind of seeing in WWE with him being the best kept secret. It was like, man, it would be nice to see more of this. And it's kind of weird that it took Malachi Black leaving the company for Buddy Matthews and Brody King to get this type of push. But hey, man, it is what it is. But speaking of the Don Callis family, the first match of the night was between Will Ospreay and a member of the Don Callis family. Now, it was a mystery. We didn't know who it was going to be. I'm like, man, seeing how AEW does AEW things, I'm thinking it's going to either be Trent or the actual opponent, and that was Mark Davis. And I'm like, I get it because of the connection with him and Will Ospreay. But this seems kind of sudden. It seems kind of out of nowhere because last time we saw Mark Davis on AEW television, he was teaming up with Will Ospreay to take down the Don Callis family. So what happened between that period and now to make Mark Davis jump? I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I'm not really too big on Mark Davis. He's a good wrestler, but I don't care. Will Ospreay ended up getting the win with a hidden blade, and it was like out of nowhere, like bow, right in the face. Hidden blade, surprise, surprise, right in your eyes. And then after the match, you had a promo with Will Ospreay and Kenny, hyping up their tag team match at Grand Slam. So doing a pretty good job of building that up, building up the Don Callis family. And I gotta say, I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I actually like this version of the Don Callis family, even though they have Mark Davis, and I'm guessing Trent's gonna come back eventually. But I do like this version of the Don Callis family because the focus is on these wrestlers instead of Don Callis himself, and that's the way it should be. So cool. Speaking of cool, we have the Hurt Syndicate. 2 weeks after they won the AEW tag team titles, they're officially making their return. They're showing off. They're dapping up Westside Gunn. And the Hurt Syndicate saying that when it's time, we're going to take all the gold we want, But as of right now, we're going to focus on these tag team titles. And we're open for business. So whoever wants to get this work can come get it. And to my surprise, we had the return of Colton and Austin Gunn, the Gunn Club, aka the Ass Boys. And I can't even lie, man, I was excited to see the Ass Boys because, I like them as a tag team. And on top of all that, I like their theme. They have one of the best themes in AEW besides the Hurt Syndicate. But, it is what it is. So the Ass Boys come out and they pretty much say that they want their tag team titles back. And AVP says, I bet we can do this next week. So I was thinking that, man, maybe they're going to do this at Revolution, maybe at Grand Slam, but nah, they're going to do this next week. So it's cool to see Colton and Austin back, but are they going to win the tag titles? Probably not. Also, what's their relationship going to be with Jay White? I'm assuming they're all faces now because, the Ass Boys got a good reaction. They're doing the guns up. Jay White's a face now, so I guess it's only a matter of time before the Bang Bang Gang links up together once again to ride off and put their guns up for all the gold members in the AEW galaxy. So after this, we had a backstage segment with Harley Cameron, who finally won a match. It's about time. And she's lobbying to wrestle Mercedes Mone in Australia. And I can see it happening. That's the story they're going to tell. Because Mercedes really doesn't take Harley Cameron serious. She keeps calling her a loser. She's kind of looking past her. And, when the match does happen, it's probably going to be the best match Harley Cameron has had ever. And there's going to be spots where Mercedes looks like she's going to lose. But, she's probably going to win. But one thing that was pretty funny during this segment was the fact that Harley Cameron had a Mercedes Mone puppet with a Sasha Banks wig. I'm like, yo, I can't make this stuff up. And it was an entertainment segment. So, and I like Harley Cameron. She's funny, talented young woman, very nice to look at. So, So after this, we have a backstage segment with Hangman Adam Page. And Renee Paquette is asking Hangman about last week, he went to go visit Swerve. And Hangman was like, look, man, that was a moment of weakness. And, I'm not weak. I'm nobody's bitch. Whatever. So as he's talking, Max Caster, he's in the background. He's talking about how he's the best wrestler alive. And he's doing the open challenge thing. And he just wants his TV time. And Max Caster was like, listen, you took out Christopher Daniels, so can you take out Billy Gunn and Anthony Bowens? And Heyman's like, no, because I don't see them, but I do see you, so I'm about to hurt you. So Hangman pretty much follows this man all over the arena to the ring. And this pretty much cuts into MJF's segment. He's talking about Jeff Jarrett, and he's saying this isn't all elderly wrestling, it's all elite wrestling. And as he's talking, Max Caster is coming out. He's trying to hide from Hangman. Hangman pulls up and he and he gets into the face of MJF once again. And I'm like, yo, I want this. I need this. We need this match to happen. And they're building up to it. Most likely it's going to happen at Revolution. But the thing is, we have to get to Revolution first. And on the road to Revolution is Dustin Rhodes. So MJF is talking. Dustin Rhodes comes out and he's saying words. I'm kind of checked out because I don't really care about Dustin Rhodes. Respectfully to him as a wrestler and as a legend, I don't care. I agree with MJF. This isn't all elderly wrestling. I don't want to see Jeff Jarrett and I don't want to see Dustin Rhodes. So unfortunately, I can't always get what I want because next week on Dynamite, they're going to have a match. Dustin Rhodes and MJF are. Something that did make me happy, something that did make me laugh was the backstage segment with Samoa Joe and Hook. And I like these because it's kind of like a mentor-mentee situation. And even with Shibata, Samoa Joe always calls him Speak and Spell because he always talks with the phone. And Samoa Joe and Hook, they pull up to find Christian. However, they see Nick Wayne and Kip Sabian and say, you know what, can you give Christian this message? And they just start beating up Christian's two sons. And as this is happening, you see Christian in the background. He peeks in and he sees Samoa Joe and Hook putting boots to asses. And he just leaves. He leaves his son high and dry. It was funny. It was a funny little spot. Funny little segment, man. I like it. I do like the dynamic of Hook and Samoa Joe. And I miss Samoa Joe on television, and this was pretty funny. So, something else was pretty funny was the one woman's match, and that's between Queen Aminata and Toni Storm with Mariah May on commentary. So Queen Aminata comes out first. Justin Roberts announces that Toni Storm will be playing the role of Mariah May, and I'm like, because I'm not really feeling this whole timeless Toni Storm gimmick. That was until tonight where she came out dressed as Mariah May, and the same way Mariah May looked just like Toni Storm looked exactly like Mariah May, a little bit thicker, and I'm like, damn, Mariah May is a good looking woman, but the way Toni Storm was doing it, she looked better than Mariah May as Mariah May. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. So Mariah May, aka Toni Storm, ended up winning the match, and then afterwards she calls out Mariah May, like she's doing a Mariah May impression, and it kind of sounded just like her. And Mariah May is not the real Mariah May is not feeling this, and this is just doing more to hype up their match in Australia. So maybe I judge this gimmick a little bit too harshly. Maybe I should invest more of my time and energy into Toni Storm dressed up as Mariah May. So like I said about the Death Riders, there was a segment with the Learning Tree, and I actually didn't mind this segment because we're out in front of the crowd instead of being backstage. And the funny part about this was the crowd was saying shut the fuck up at Chris Jericho. And then, as they're talking about the fact that Bandito returned and beat up the Learning Tree. So now this Saturday on Collision is going to be Brian Keith versus Bandito. And then, you have Big Bill calling out Powerhouse Hobbs. And then Powerhouse Hobbs and Big Bill and the Learning Tree, they all get into this big brawl. And then you have a moment between Big Bill and Powerhouse Hobbs, and the crowd is going crazy for it. They're chanting meat. And I'm like, I like this because I like Big Bill and I like Powerhouse Hobbs. So I wouldn't mind seeing a match between these two. Most likely it's going to happen at Revolution, and I'm totally cool with that. Just keep Chris Jericho out of the mix, and you're cool, man. You got a winner. You got a winning situation. So this leads us to our main event between whose house? Swerve's house and Ricochet. And as Swerve is making his entrance, he's attacked by Ricochet. And these two had a phenomenal match. This was a match I've been looking forward to all week. Ever since it was announced, I've been looking forward to this match, and it didn't disappoint. And surprisingly, Ricochet ended up getting the win because Swerve hit a house call on Ricochet. He set him up for another Swerve stomp. And I think it was the way Ricochet got his arms up or his knees or whatever. The way Swerve landed, it was a low blow. It wasn't intentional, but Ricochet took advantage. He hit the spirit gun, he hit the 1, he hit the 2, he hit the 3. And then after the match, he steals the robe from Swerve that represents the embassy and Jimmy Rave. And I'm thinking that Ricochet is gonna take the scissors to the robe and cut it up. That's not what happened. He just ended up wearing the robe out, stealing it from Swerve, and that's how this episode of Dynamite ended. And once again, man, like I said, this episode was better, way better than last week's episode. More of this, please. More of this. This is the AEW I know. This is the AEW I recognize. This is the AEW I enjoy. But with that being said, guys, what did you think of this week's episode of Dynamite? Let me know in the comment section below. Of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. You guys take care. Peace. I'm out. Peace.